it really wasn't for me. That was the first time I had to accept a defeat because I resigned after only 8 months of working for that organization.
Now, this is the first time I'm getting this kind of block because there's a lot of information to process and I'm just not getting the right flow for some reason.
What type of tea do you use here? Is it like a sachet or is it, it's very good.
Oh, I have far too many, I must admit.
We are going into the matrix then.
And so I think there's something about the newer generations entering the workforce that is fundamentally different.
No, it's just that your demeanor is so calm and composed that I have to first match that.
I hope that I'm actually able to answer those questions.
Sure.
I have no idea what they are.
Common mistake you see executives make in their first 120 days.
All HR does is kind of producing vanilla ice cream. There's some people who want like vanilla ice cream and they want to have the salted caramel with this and that on top. My book launched. And to my surprise, it became a #1 new release on Amazon.
I'll definitely find a way to ask you that question, maybe in a different way. Welcome to today's episode of Pine Talks. I'm your host Prateek, and this is our Dubai chapter. Our today's guest is a person who cannot be defined by in simple words. The kind of experience he comes with, the kind of expertise he carries, the kind of knowledge he imparts to the world's top leaders, C-level executives, C-suite executives, CEOs. He's worked with some of the most well-known multinational organizations, an ICF certified coach, best-selling author, and the #1 coach according to the magazine for 3 years, Times Magazine, if I'm not wrong.
CEO Today it is, yeah.
CEO Today. So many, achievements that I'm just running out of words. So without taking much of time in introducing him, I would like to hand over the baton to you. Please welcome Navid Nazemian. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Yes, Nazemian. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Navid, for joining us. And I'm sure whatever I say about you is not going to do justice to what you have achieved in your life and what you're about to achieve. So I would request you to please introduce yourself in your own words.
Sure. Thank you, Prateek, firstly, for this warm welcome and for the kind invite. I'm Navid. I am a former HR executive who was turned into an executive coach. And I'm also a best-selling father, a husband, and the father of a 9-year-old son.
Perfect. So, our audience are mostly students and working executives who are looking for life-changing lessons. And, let's dive into the deep wealth of knowledge that you've acquired over the years. So let's begin with your early years. What was your career like and what was your education like in the early years? Where did you study and what happened?
Sure. So I have an unusual background, I guess. In German, you would say a non-linear background. In that when I finished my school in the year 1994, I did not immediately go to study. So I took my time. I wasn't sure what I would study. And this was a bit of a surprise because I grew up in a family of academics. My mom had a PhD in pharmacy and my dad had a master's degree in communication. So it was a bit of an unusual ask as a young man to say, look, I will eventually get to do the studies. I just am a little tired of studying and reading and writing and assignments and all that. And I just want to take my time to explore the world of work, which is what I did. So I then went on and looked at a variety of different jobs. I performed 2 different sales roles in that time. The first one was in a retail chain. And the second one was more B2B sales. So I was marketing, selling an event location to corporates and organizations. And so eventually I realized, okay, it's about time now that I start with my studies. And I took 4 years out. And in the year 1998, I decided to study. It wasn't absolutely clear to me what to study. but I settled on international management. So this is what I went for. It was a relatively new study subject in Hamburg, Germany at the time. And what was unique about that was that it was entirely taught in English, which was also a new thing for the German university system at the time.
Perfect. And what did you do after your study? Where did you start working?
Yes. So this is the interesting thing that happened. I had accumulated roughly 6 years of professional work experience in sales positions. And during my studies, which was very broad, so I had finance, I had economics, I had marketing, I had logistics, I had all sorts of different courses, because that was the idea of international management, is that you are kind of, educated at a basic level in all the various disciplines. And then later you decide which one of those appeals to you, and you kind of deepen your knowledge in that one area. And so I discovered my passion and love for the people function, the HR function. And at that time, when I graduated in the year 2002, nobody wanted to hire me into HR, because they look at my CV and said, well, you don't have any relevant HR experience whatsoever. And done some internships here and there during my studies, but that didn't really count. And so it was really a hard ask at that time to really get my first opportunity to work in the HR function. And as the famous Eminem song says, you only need one chance, one opportunity.
True.
And that lady who gave me the chance, her name is Dania Frech. She was the head of HR working for the world famous Three Stripes, company called Adidas. And she hired me into HR, into the lowest level position possible. So my job title was assistant HR manager. But I was incredibly grateful, because I really knew that I wanted to build my career in the HR function for years to come. And that opportunity, coupled with the iconic brand that Adidas is, really set my career up for success from there on.
That's really great. So you finally got a break in the HR role that you were seeking.
Yes, after many rejection letters and disappointing feedback sessions after interviews. Yeah.
So this reminds me something about my career, because it's just something similar. I personally feel that if you want to excel in a certain department or in a certain sector, you should always start from the lowest level possible. What's your take on that? Because I feel that the lower you start, the longer you can go and the higher you can reach. If you start in a mid-level, you don't understand what goes on below that mid-level.
Yes, I understand that, but the reality is I didn't really have a choice. So I took the very first opportunity that actually came my way. And and let's face it, Prateek, nobody gave me any cookie points.
True.
Just because I had spent 6 years in sales prior to getting into the first HR role. So I had to perform right from day one as if I had studied HR and had done a bunch of internships in HR. And the reality is, if you are ambitious as I am, and if you are curious as I am, those are good recipes for career progression anyhow. So I wasn't really worried too much. I didn't particularly like the title, being assistant manager. But the reality is, it didn't really matter much, because you are going to craft your career going forward. And so whatever the title is, it's only a temporary state anyhow. And so you will eventually break into the more middle management and senior roles eventually.
So starting from an assistant HR manager's role and reaching a point wherein you are coaching the leadership, the top level management of some of the most affluent multinational organizations. What was the journey like? And at what point of time you thought that maybe I should move out of this role? Because as we were talking earlier, it's not a traditional choice that most of the students or most of the working professionals go for. So what made that shift possible, and how did that happen?
Sure. So I stayed curious and hungry. And at the same time, I really tried to demonstrate the fact that I am worthy of bigger roles with more responsibility. And that's been kind of, going on for 20 years until I decided to jump ship in the year 22 it was. So I was always open. I was always flexible. I was always hungry to learn more and to do more. I was a bachelor for a long period throughout that time. That meant that I didn't have to be home at a certain time of the day, or I didn't have to, keep my weekends free for parenting and other kind of family purposes. And this is the interesting other aspect to what I did is when I landed my first role with Adidas, I actually grew up in Hamburg. I was born in Tehran. I lived in Tehran for 13 years. Then I migrated to Germany, and this is the country I spent most of my working life and adult life in. And for the role with Adidas, I had to move outside of my comfort zone, which was Herzogenaurach. It was a tiny town, 600 kilometers away from Hamburg. So that was the first time I really had to prove myself on my own entirely, not only in a new role, in a new organization, but also in a region that is quite different. I'm sure the same applies to India. I don't know if all you've seen is Pune, and that's the only place you grew up, and you have all your social network, and suddenly you get your first assignment, I don't know, in Mumbai or some other place. It may be culturally even slightly or entirely different to what you're used to. And so that kind of theme continued. So from there on, I was headhunted. I went to work for, at the time, the most admired company on the planet called GE, or General Electric. It really wasn't for me. That was the first time I had to accept a defeat career-wise, because I resigned after only 8 months of working for that organization. And it was really hard. It was really hard for me to accept that it's not the kind of culture that I would like to stay in. And at the same time, knowing that GE was the most admired company at the time, I mean, you looked at any statistics, and I think one of the interesting statistics was, if you look at the top largest organizations in the US, the S&P 1000, something like 50% of those companies were hiring from GE into the most senior positions. And so GE was really looked at as a breeder of talent, as an organization that really got to develop more senior leaders in the right way. And despite all of those accolades and credentials, it just wasn't for me. And so from there on, I moved on to another organization called BAT. I worked for BAT for a period of 6 years in 4 different geographies. They hired me out of Germany, and I seconded me to Tehran. So that was wonderful, because it gave me an opportunity to reconnect with my own heritage and roots after being out of the country for 19 years. From there on, they promoted me into a regional role into Dubai. That was in the year 2007. Then I was promoted again and moved to the global head office, or the mothership, as it's often referred to Globehouse, working out of London. It was the first time, and at that time I was married, so with my wife we moved to London for the first time. And from there on again, I got my next assignment to work in Germany for the same organization. So I think, and that sort of trend continued throughout my career. So then I was headhunted again and worked for a company called Roche Pharmaceuticals, based out of Basel, Switzerland, for 2.5 years, before I was headhunted again and worked for Vodafone, the last company on my 26-year career trajectory. First 3 years in Düsseldorf in Germany. This is also where our son was born. And then the last 5 years working out of London in the global headquarters. And that was the biggest HR role I've ever had. I looked after 27,000 people. I partnered directly with our group CFO, Margarita Della Valle, who today is the group CEO of the same company. And I had responsibility for those employees in 24 markets. So I really had reached a height in my career that I was dreaming of 10 years prior to that. And despite all of that, in the year 22, a few things happened that really nudged me out of my corporate career. The first thing that happened was that my parents both died within about a year time from one another. I was about to turn 50 in that year. and my book launched. And to my surprise, it became a #1 new release on Amazon. It was a bestseller in the top ranking charts in the US in the first week of its launch. And it quickly became a bestseller in the UK, in Germany, Switzerland. By now, it's an international bestseller. And what it gave me was many opportunities, such as these. I had podcast hosts reaching out to say, I would love to invite you to come on my show. I had other HRDs or GMs and CEOs of other companies saying, we got our global leadership conference. Can you come and speak to our leaders? And I realized that I wouldn't be able to do all of those things next to a very demanding full-time executive role. Okay. So whilst I was happy in my role, whilst it more than paid what I ever needed in terms of the financial needs of us as a family, I really saw this as a golden opportunity to really go all in on something that I might never know what it's like if I never really jump ship. Yep. And that's what I decided to do. So in the year 22, I decided to jump ship, to leave the corporate world, to leave Vodafone, my beloved company. And at the same time, we moved to Dubai as a family because I felt that having grown up in Europe, the UAE was a lot more conducive to solopreneurs and startups. And at the same time, it had a GDP growth and a trajectory of growth that is unmatched anywhere else in Europe. And so I really decided that it's the best place for us to be based at. And at the same time, I still continue to work globally. Some of my clients are based in Europe and in the US. And so, yeah, that's my 26 years or 29 years journey in maybe 5 or 7 minutes.
Oh, I'm just running out of words I'm just getting speechless listening to your experience, the cities you have traveled, the kind of people you must have met. That is, whatever you're doing right now, that is the accumulation of all the work that you have done in the past, creating one comfort zone in a city, then moving out of it, moving to a different city, getting used to it, meeting people, creating another comfort zone, because comfort zone is something which creates automatically once we settle down. And, moving from one city to another, jumping from one comfort zone to another. At what stage of your life did you feel the need to write this book?
Yes.
And you felt that the executives need some coaching, or did you see something during your travel, during working with different levels of people? At what point of time did you think that this is something which is required?
I guess it was an early desire. And that being said, that just, as I said it, life just got in the way.
Right.
And so this was really interesting because for my book, I also interviewed a double-digit number of executives to kind of distill those insights into the book. And it wasn't the only part, but that was a critical part of it. And one of those is my ex-line manager, Richard Demblon is his name. He used to be a HR director with BAT and someone I worked with closely when I was based in Iran and in Dubai. And he said to me something that I even forgot I told him, which was in our very first conversation, once he had hired me into the company, I gifted him a book, like a leadership book. I don't even know what book it was. And he said to me that I told him in that session that, I think this is a really great book. I really enjoyed reading it. I hope that you will benefit in the same way I did from reading this book. And I'm not quite ready yet, but one day I'm going to give you my own book. And I don't even remember ever saying that to him because this was in the year, 2005. And the book launched in 22, but it took me 7 years to finish it from start to finish. So I started writing the book in the year 2015. And it was a hard journey, because of my busy life as an executive, because of the fact that I had family. Shortly after deciding to write the book, our son was born, and I was coaching on the side as well. So, and speaking at conferences. So I had a very busy life, and finding time to write the book that I felt would deserve my name on its cover was a whole different undertaking. But I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad to see the success of the book. And I, quite frankly, I don't believe if I had done it in 6 months, as most authors do, it wouldn't quite reach the success that it has and continues to reach. Yeah.
So, how was your journey when it comes to executive transitioning? So, if you would like to coach yourself at one of the stages of your life, what stage would that be?
Yes.
And what would the coaching be?
I would have started a lot earlier than I actually did. I think there's something about, and I think these days it's a lot more affordable to hire yourself a coach than at the time when I got my first coach. And so it's you have all these digital platforms that are offering coaching at a very reduced rate. You have all the large language models that can do kind of the basic aspects of a coach. And so there's many opportunities these days available to young people that wasn't there when I was young myself. And so talking about my own transitions, I transitioned multiple times. A fun fact about my career is that I worked in those 26 years for 7 of the world's most admired companies.
Right.
And despite that, I never did the same industry twice. So I started in retail, then moved into events, then moved into sporting goods, then moved into commercial finance, then moved into fast-moving consumer goods, then moved into pharmaceuticals,
Telecom.
then moved into telecom. So I did 7 industries, and of course, every single one of these industries and companies believes they're so unique. Nothing else would work there that has worked elsewhere. And I'm the best proof that there are, when you think of it as a people practice, there are best practices that you may, with a bit of a tweak, bring from an industry into your own and really, get a head start as a result of that. Because everyone else in your industry is just doing what everyone else is doing. And so that's one of the aspects I wanted to speak about when I reflect on my own career transitions. The second one is the fact that I have been living and working in 5 countries. And again, that is each time a hard transition and a hard landing. I remember when I went to Switzerland for the first time as a full-time employee. I had an early experience as a student. I did my practical semester abroad in Switzerland. So I went to Zurich and spent there 8 months. And when I was working and living in Switzerland, I saw, although it was in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, how fundamentally different the culture was compared to, Germany. This is where I grew up, essentially. And so that's the second aspect to that. And the third one is, I've had some brutal transitions coming my way sometimes. And that actually happened to me at Vodafone 3 times. My boss was fired and I was asked to step up without fully owning the role. So I was allowed to occupy the seat that my line manager would have typically occupied without being in the role and without being, fully owning.
More like an acting manager.
Yes,
for the time being, interim manager.
Yeah, and I've done that several times over. So there are various aspects of my career that touch upon the topic of transitions. And this was one of the reasons why I embarked on writing about the book on the same topic, because still today, as we speak, there are only 2 other books on the same topic that have been published. And both of those only address CEOs and their transitions. And nothing else is written on the topic. And the book that I loved reading early in my career was The First 90 Days. But that book is written for first-time managers and first-time employees. And so when you think of what it takes to succeed at the executive level, it's just too important a topic to be left to chance and luck to succeed.
True. Wow. So, talking about you working in 7 different sectors, very few people get the opportunity to work in different sectors because most of the organizations normally hire people who have relevant experience in a single sector.
That's right.
So how easy or how challenging was it to move from one sector to another while maintaining your quest to learn more and your growth with different sectors? So I'm sure it was more like a growth position that you took in a different sector, not a lateral position.
Yes.
So what was the experience like?
Yes.
Did you experience any kind of challenges when you went for an interview and like, sorry, you're not from this sector.
Yes.
You don't have the relevant experience. Because I feel that HR is more like managing people. It's more of a human psychology kind of department wherein you understand people more, wherein you make decisions based on their psychology. So psychology remains the same, regardless of which sector you are in. So how different was it from moving from one sector to another?
Sure. Here's a surprise fact for you, Prateek, which is it wasn't really hard at all. The hardest transition for me was to break out of sales into the human resources function. That was the hardest one because, of course, let's say I'm going to pick one particular industry that is really only, with very few exceptions, hiring from within the same industry. So financial services, right? Banking. You're unlikely to be hired at a senior level into any bank unless you have something very unique that industry does not have right now. And that's why they bring you in like chief digital officer or something like that. But in terms of HR, finance, all their various support functions, you are unlikely to even get an interview with any of those if they don't see that reflected on your background and resume. So it wasn't really hard for me to be considered as a candidate for these industries. And I was lucky at the same time. Adidas was the first but only company where I actually applied to get a position. From there on, I was headhunted every single time. So it wasn't like I am knocking on someone else's door, say, hey, I would look for a more senior position. Would you hire me? No, they approached me. So they knew my background and they knew my achievements. So yeah, that's a surprise fact for you. It wasn't hard at all. I just allowed myself to be pushed outside of my comfort zone because let's face it, what has worked in commercial finance at GE may or may not work in a fast-moving consumer goods company. And so I really had to understand the culture, the context, the circles of influence, decision, and power-making in that new organization to then decide what from my prior experiences from Adidas and GE can I actually bring into these? What from those do I need to shapeshift into something that actually works with the new C's, as I call them, the 5 C's in the new organization?
Wow. Well, talking about 5 C's, there's something I believe in, which is a part of management, the 6 P's. So there's a different outlook looking at 6 P's. So few people say proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And there's another 6 P that proper prior planning promotes peak performance. So I personally feel that the difference is when you are looking at the first one, you're running in a race with your head turned behind. That means you don't want to be last. That means you're trying to prevent poor performance. And in the second one, you are taking the race head on and you are trying to be the first because it promotes peak performance. What's your take on this? And how do you think the organizations take this? Because I have seen most of the organizations just running and most of the leaders just running to meet their targets. That's preventing poor performance.
Yes.
How do you think promoting peak performance helps, and what is the difference?
Yeah. So there are a few things to unpack here. The first thing is we have to make sure, and I have done that mistake several times throughout my own career, that we differentiate between performance and potential. Meaning, just because someone is hitting their numbers, let's say if this is a sales function, and or overachieving on the targets, and even though we stretch them each year with higher numbers, higher kind of achievements, they seem to always be on top of that, and so getting on with it and delivering it. that does not necessarily mean that that same individual has actually potential to grow into a bigger, broader role.
Right.
And I have done that mistake several times by sitting in those forums. We call them succession planning meetings, talent review forums, whatever the name of it is, and saying, hey, I think Prateek should be put up for the sales director position because he just happens to be the best sales person we have in the company. And no matter how hard the targets were that we gave him, he always overachieved those. Now, potential means, is Prateek, or whatever the name of the individual is, actually able to do a role that is far bigger and broader than his current role?
Right.
And more importantly, let's say if the answer is yes, he has the capability, would he enjoy doing that? Right? Just because the fact is, as soon as you step up into a more senior position, the likelihood of you doing the actual work diminishes quite quickly, meaning suddenly Prateek finds himself in a position where he's spending 60% of his time managing all the other salespeople that are reporting into him. And he actually dislikes that. He doesn't consider himself to be a people leader. He doesn't want to waste his time managing all these people. He actually wants to do the job,
Right.
which is selling. So, and I've seen that in sales environments, that mistake that's being made. I've seen that mistake being made in R&D environments,
Right.
where you take the most brilliant scientists and suddenly give them the commercial parts of an R&D center, and they just don't enjoy that because, quite frankly, they couldn't care less about the numbers. All they care is to be in the lab and doing the exciting experiments.
Right. I think that's the Peter principle. I'm so sorry to cut you off because this just struck my mind. I read somewhere that it's called the Peter principle, where according to psychology, that once a person is the best performer in a certain task, you promote him or her.
Yes.
And maybe that person is not the right person to lead the team, because after a certain level, you have to lead the team. You have to share your experience. You have to ensure that the whole team is working in sync and everything, and not everyone is cut from the same cloth. So how do you manage a person who is not for a leadership role? Okay, he is not for, he should, I mean, when you assess his profile, you feel that, okay, this person should not be a leader, but he's hell-bent, no, I want to be a leader.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that situation?
Yeah. So let's say if the desire is there for that individual to be a people leader, yeah, well, you give them the best support possible and see how it goes. But if the desire isn't necessarily there, but they would still want to grow in their career, it's something we did back at BAT, and something that was also done at Vodafone. We called it the technical career ladder, meaning, of course, the funnel will get very narrow at the top, but the reality is that if you're a brilliant scientist, you don't want to take on people responsibility or commercial responsibility for the same unit that you're a member of. There will be very few, but still opportunities for you to grow in terms of your job grade, in terms of your pay and rewards, without necessarily taking that on. And that we call the technical career ladder. And so to use a concrete example, what that meant is, and I was the HRD for a product center in BAT, that we had 5 of those product centers around the world. So ours was based in Bayreuth, Germany. We had one in Porto Alegre in Brazil. We had one in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and one in Southampton in the UK. And so these regional product centers, as we call them, collaborated also. And every one of those had a deep pocket of expertise on a particular aspect. So ours was the one that was deep on packaging, and the other one in Asia Pacific was the leader worldwide on blending and flavors. And then the one in Brazil was all about excellence in production and what have you. So what we then did is to say, okay, this is the maximum as per the HR's job grading system. This is as senior as you can get to. But if you wanted to grow into more senior roles without taking the people or commercial responsibility, you need to hit these criteria, such as 2 publications in reputable scientific journals per year, making your case why you deserve this promotion to a panel of scientific experts. So the heads of RPCs were part of that panel, and they had 2 slots to give away each year. And sometimes they didn't give away both slots because they didn't feel that the candidates are there yet. And so there are workarounds how you can still work with those senior experts to give them more senior positions without necessarily ruining the entire HR system that works for 90% of the organization very well.
Wow. Well, this reminds me of one of the questions I wanted to ask you. So, as a leader, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are approachable, but it's also our responsibility to ensure that work is being done. There is a certain level of authority that is being maintained. And a lot of people struggle with finding a balance in the both. Either they are too approachable or they are too authoritative. So one thing leads to people not respecting you, and the other thing may lead to, people don't like you anymore, or maybe are too much of a micromanager. How would you say we can find a balance in the both, and what exactly is the leadership role about?
Yes. That reminds me of my post from 2 weeks ago on LinkedIn, and I invite you and your audience to go and check it out, where I spoke about the fact that the most effective leaders are those that can be tough and kind, depending on the situation, the circumstances. And for me, it's not really a trade-off. One of the examples I want to use is an instrument we use at Vodafone, which is called the Hay Styles and Leadership Climate Index. It's a 180 assessment tool. So let's say, Prateek, if you were the incoming GM in a market, you would get to do the assessment yourself after about 6 months of being in a role, because you need to demonstrate what you're made of to your team, and then your entire direct reports would take the same assessment about you.
Right.
And then we looked at what Hay describes as the 6 styles of leadership, and looking at whether you have 1 or 2 of those as being dominant styles, meaning, and let's say one of them is pace setting, which is kind of, keeping people on their toes and really being demanding and really being a pace setter. The other one is directive, such as you ask people what you want them to do, and that's it. There's no, but can I do it like this, or can I go that? No, this is what I want you to do, get on with it. But there are also other styles, such as collaborative or a coaching style. And what I really appreciated about this tool is that there isn't a single leadership style that this instrument believes is superior to the other 5. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you have to think of this as a piano, right? You got all these buttons.
Right.
And if you can play all of these buttons at the time that requires you to do so, that is what will make you an effective leader. And if I wanted to give a very silly example, let's say, Prateek, you are the captain of this gigantic cruiser called the Titanic, and you have just realized on the radar that your ship is about to hit the iceberg.
Right.
Now, as much as I like to be the coaching style of leader, it probably isn't the most appropriate time for you to go around and ask your co-captain and your head of engineering and your head of whatever to say, what do you think we should be doing? What's your opinion on this? Should we take a left turn or a right turn? This is the kind of situation that demands you to be directive,
Right.
and to steer the ship from the biggest disaster it will potentially face. On the same token, when there is not the urgency of the situation, when there is more time and probably more space to be playful, maybe you want to utilize the coaching style. Maybe you know already the answer, but you want to see what your team is thinking of a potential solution. Maybe one of them has a better solution than the one that you have in your mind right now. And so you may want to leverage that style of leadership more frequently in that situation. So it really is about demonstrating all 6 at the time that is requiring you to do so. Sometimes that's also referred to as situational leadership, but there are many words for the same thing.
True. True. And okay, well, I feel that we are the sum of all the achievements and failures, and that's what make us. That's what make us sit here today. So, what is one achievement of failure that changed your mindset completely towards one thing?
So I think I have to go back to when I joined General Electric from Adidas. And again, Adidas was an incredible company. It's a company that I will love for the rest of my life. It was really like working for a family. It was all about team. I mean, this is the year 2002, right? So a long time ago. There were no such thing as at the company as individual performance and
Okay.
individual bonuses. It was all based around teams. And you know, at Vodafone, we moved to that 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We said we want to put away with the individual achievements. We are overemphasizing the aspect of team, because if everyone is pulling their weight, eventually the team will succeed. So we don't want to reward individual performance. We want to reward team performance. And if every team is working the same, pulling in the same direction, then the company will do well. And so it really was all about that. And of course, everything was centered around the theme of sports. I mean, even as an employee, I got to shake hands and speak with some incredible talents at the time. Sergio Garcia, a very famous golf player, and many other athletes, David Beckham, another one. And so I left that all behind because I was looking for the next level promotion, and I was headhunted and joined GE. I got my promotion. And the biggest mistake that I made, which led ultimately to my failure at the company, was that I really didn't think about the 5 C's with a fresh mind. What I just did at GE was to copy and paste what had made me successful at Adidas. And today, I obviously am a little wiser than I was 23 years ago, is the fact that there is no such thing as I'm going to pull out my playbook and just do and repeat. And so you have to make sense of it. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I made was GE at that time, and way before I joined them, had come up with the 9-box grid, which is looking at performance and potential. So you take every single employee of the organization and plot them across the 9 boxes.
Right.
And of course, the box 1s and the box 2s are the ones that get promoted because they are demonstrating both high levels of performance and high levels of potential. So signaling their readiness for more senior positions. And guess what that created in the GE way, as they call it? It was you take your elbows out and work your way to the top.
Right.
And I just couldn't do that. I'm a very ambitious guy. I have always had high ambitions of myself and others, but I just couldn't do it the way they wanted us to do it. And what I did was the team approach that, you know, was very successful at Adidas. It just wasn't appreciated at all at GE. And so that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made. And of course, having worked in the HR function for 20 years, every single time I moved on from GE, I had to explain during the interview process what actually happened there. Why did you resign after only 8 months of working for what used to be the world's most admired company? So I had to really explain and over-explain myself what happened there. So I didn't only suffer this once, but I suffered it throughout every single interview process since then. And so I clearly speak about that as a failure of mine and as a low degree of awareness around context, culture, and circles of influence, power, and decision making.
Wow. Well, talking about bad experiences, so the organization's culture mostly depends on the managers who are working over there. And there is no bad organization, it's just bad managers. That's what we read most of the time in quotes and everywhere. I personally feel that every company starts with a vision, which is of one person. One person decides that this is something I want to build, and based on these values and principles. Over a period of time, when the baton is handed over to someone else, the idea keeps on changing. and people start moving away from the values and principle based on which the organization started. Do you have any example or any organization who have, who tried to get back to the values and principle model? Because most of the companies today are working on the, profit and loss model. And I feel values and principles are the very foundation or the strongest foundation anyone can find to define their business model.
Yes.
What do you think about this?
Yes, sure. I mean, firstly, of course, I am a big believer of one of the psychometrics called the Hogan assessment. And I know the gentleman myself, his name is Dr. Robert Hogan. He's considered one of the most iconic psychologists out there. And so when I administer the Hogan assessment, the third part of it is colored in blue. And it's called the motives, values, and preferences inventory. And what happened to me at GE was that there was a huge mismatch between my motives, values, and preferences,
right,
and what was the prevailing organizational motives, values, and preferences. So I didn't quite see it through at the time, and that's why I struggled and decided that it's best for me to pull the emergency brake and kind of remove myself from that culture. But the reality is that when I speak to coaching clients today, is that when I see that there is a big mismatch between their MVPI and their organization, this is the kind of the insight I share with them, which is, look, if and it's unlikely that we are going to fundamentally change on our motives, values, and preferences, over the mid or long term, you are not going to be at your best in this sort of an organization.
Right.
And so if you want to carry on, you're welcome to do so. But if you really wanted to do that in a more scientific way, is that you search for an organization or a division within the same organization that is more in line with your MVPI. Now, fast forward, and coming back to your actual question, if I know of any examples, we actually did that at Vodafone. So when I joined Vodafone in the year 2014, it was, I believe, in the year 2019 that we felt that what had served the company well for 10 years, so 2009 to 2019, with the group CEO and group CHRO both departing, we felt that it's the right time to embark on something that feels more current, as well as serves us more for the next 10 years to come. And so we had embedded it in our policies. We had used it as part of our interview process. I mean, those Vodafone way behaviors, there were 10 of those. We really were not, giving up on those because they really made us who we were. And despite that, we felt that it's time for a refresh, a revamp, or a reset of this. And so we hired an external organization, and they did something like 200 focus groups with up to 20 employees in the various geographies we had.
Okay.
And we also did that with our annual engagement survey. And all these insights led into what we then came up with was the new version of the Vodafone way behaviors. So instead of 10, we came up with 4 brand new spirit behaviors. And those spirit behaviors, one of them was it's all about the team and not individual achievements. It also meant that if we were honest with it, we needed to put away with these labels of you're a top talent, you're a top performer, you're a top this, top that, and because you're that, we give you this much more bonus and this much more shares and this and that. We have now to start drinking our own champagne. And so that's what we put away with the individual multiplier thing. We put away with the 9-box grid. We came up with a 4-box grid. Whereas before, only 15% of the company could be identified as top talent. The base assumption in the new 4-box grid was that 85% of the company is called talent.
Wow.
And so it was really a game changer for us. And it was a big, bold move because if you have lived with something for 10 years, it's like you have been married to someone for 10 years and now you're divorcing from them and looking for a new partner, and you're not even sure if the new partner is really gonna fully land with you because yes, it's been done in a grassroots kind of way and we have married the engagement insights with it, But the reality is, it's like a new relationship, and once the honeymoon is over, you're going to see if it's serving you well or not. Thankfully, we didn't have to make any tweaks, but it was a bold movement and a good example I wanted to share about the question you asked me.
Perfect. I mean, this makes me think of one thing. A lot of people wants to be a big part of something. And I feel that true leaders want to be a part of something big. So there's a huge difference in trying to be a big part of something and wanting to be a part of something big. So, and what do you think about this? Because a lot of people who think that I want to be a big part of something, they are more towards the individual side. That I want to do most of the things, which is not the right way of doing business. Did you meet any of the executives or any of the leaders who started thinking on these lines and then you changed his mind towards working as a team, or finding people to trust, or finding people to delegate your tasks to? Or how easy or difficult was it to change their mind?
Yes. First off, I don't consider myself to be the key driver of changing anyone's mind, including my own coaching clients.
Right.
But what I like instead to work with is, and I can use a concrete example. So this is the chief sales officer of a global organization, and he was the chief sales officer for this region, let's say Middle East, North Africa. And the company brought me in, and the mandate they gave to the coaching was, look, he's the best salesperson we've ever had, and he will be the best person we're ever going to hire. So nothing needs to be tweaked on the sales side. And this is a three-way conversation. This is the line manager of the individual and myself sitting in a room with the CHRO, by the way, who was always optionally invited to these forums. And because it's a sponsored engagement, meaning the company pays for the coaching, I would love for the company to give input into what they would think of success looks like 12 months down the line. And his line manager was very direct. He was a bit of a very directive kind of leader. And he said, so-and-so, the name of the individual who's in the room, will never be promoted beyond his current level if he doesn't change one fundamental thing. And the one fundamental thing is he thinks of himself to be bigger and better than everyone else on the top team. And that is factually incorrect.
Right.
That was hard. It was hard for the individual to take in. And of course, he had big ambitions. He wanted to take his boss's job. He wanted to take his boss's job. And so we then, once we concluded that three-way conversation, we got into our first session. And I said, and he said, oh, that was tough. I was not expecting that. And I said, well, think of it as, we have glasses here. Is the glass half full or half empty? As a half full glass, because I have attended 250 plus of these three-way conversations. And sometimes you walk away from these and you're not entirely clear what is the actual desired coaching outcomes here. In your case, it's very clear. So I take it as a good sign. So it's not like we have to think about, what did he actually say what did he mean to say when he said this? No, it's like crystal clear. And so the individual has to want this. It doesn't matter how competent I am as a coach. If the penny has not dropped in the client's head, there's no way I can make it to drop. So it all starts with a desire to want to change.
Right.
And then I come in and help them to, how do we bring about this kind of a change? And so fast forward, and I did several things with that particular client. I did a 360 on his behalf, where I spoke with the line manager, the HR partner, some of his peers, and some of his direct reports, and aggregated the output back to him in an anonymous way, with the exception of his line manager. They are always able to see what the line manager said about him. And we did the Hogan assessment, we did several other things, and we had contracted for a 12 months period. And 6 months in, I asked for the same set of stakeholders to repeat the session. But this time it's not about desired coaching outcomes. It's about, tell me about progress. And I remember that so clearly. The day before that session, we actually had our regular coaching conversation. I said, tomorrow is the session. What do you think is going to be the feedback? He said,
I have changed upside down. They are
Wow.
going to say the amazing transformation they have seen in my leadership, my style, how I relate to my colleagues, this, that, and the other. Great. So we walk in, and this more directive, pace-setting type leader of his, with the HR lady, turned around and said, yeah, there's a little bit of progress made, but nowhere near enough. So again, we are having our one-on-one. It's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Use the F word. I did this, I did that. And he used some examples of his own. He said when they had their top team meetings, he would never mix and mingle with the other top team members. They're now asking him out for drinks, for a pre-something and post-dinner drinks, this and that. How come? How dare he said that? He doesn't want me to get promoted. So I had to kind of call him down and say, look, again, look at it as an upside. We got 6 more months. He could acknowledge some progress. It was just not enough. And the HR lady chimed in as well. And she acknowledged a little more than the line manager did, but she also said that there is definitely room for improvement. So that gives us 6 more months to work on it. Now you need to go all in. And so 3 months after that session, so this is 9 months into the 12 months engagement. I get goosebumps when I say that.
Okay.
He called me out of the blue. Out of the blue. It was like 9:30 p.m. Dubai time, and he's based in Dubai and I'm based in Dubai. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's happened? And he says, I just wanted to tell you, I just concluded my interview process with the US guys, and they have just promoted me into a role that is bigger than my line manager's role.
Wow.
So it takes time. It takes grit. It takes resilience. It takes humility. It takes a degree of vulnerability. It takes a degree of coachability. It takes all of these ingredients to eventually get there. But I guess to come back with your question, do you have a positive case you can share? There are many such positive cases I can share with you where it looked a bit hopeless right at the outset. And we eventually got there and more. And that's what gets me out of bed every single morning. That's what made me to leave my very lucrative, highly paid executive role behind and never look back. And that's what is top of my mind today, which is how can I serve my clients in the most effective way? And it's the joy of my life.
Wow. Well, this is quite insightful, and it actually reminds me of my own journey, like how I evolved over a period of time from one stage of life to another and one mindset to another. And there was a moment of epiphany which happened, and I was like, okay, this is not how I should be working. I need to change these things. And that brought a huge shift in the way I work. That brought a huge shift in the way I talk to people. I talk to my peers. I talk to my subordinates, managing the organization. I personally feel that a leader is the one who actually makes or breaks the organization. And this brings me to the next question. Out of the 7 verticals or the 7 sectors you have worked with, what was your key takeaway from each sector that made you the person you are today? So it can be a positive takeaway or a negative takeaway, because learning doesn't have a positive or negative angle.
Sure. So the German part of my brain wants to tell you, Prateek, that I've only experienced each industry once. So I don't have enough data points to really say, oh, this is it. This is what it's like to work in the pharma industry. But I'm still going to try to attempt to give you an answer. So retail, right? There's some dynamics in retail that you cannot deny. The one is there is high turnover of staff in a retail outlet, no matter how much you pay or what you do. So you have to work with the consistency of the customer experience. And the other aspect I really appreciate about retail is it all looks pretty simple at the surface. Oh, like the type of business I worked at, it wasn't called Foot Locker, but it was a similar basic concept, such as you have trainers or sneakers, as they're called in the US, fashion items and sporting goods, such as cappies and socks and what have you, that you sell. That's it. So it sounds like a simple business model, but retail is all about the detail. There is a lot of detail that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that you have the right SKUs sitting on the shelf, being sold to customers by very capable sales people. So that's what I took away from retail. The events business, so I was selling an events business. It's all about, and this was my early lesson in sales, it's all about building and nourishing and maintaining relationships. It doesn't matter whether you have the most superior event venue to sell. It doesn't matter whether you are the cheapest in the market. It doesn't matter whether you have the most incredible customer experience. Of course, those are good things to have. And hopefully the mix of those things is right. But what ultimately gets the client, in my case, the corporates, to come and sign the deal is the relationship building. And that's what matters in the end. So that's what I took away from events slash sales. Then that gets me into sporting goods. And I really loved working for Adidas. It was an incredible company. And what I took away from sporting goods is two things. One, none of the sporting goods companies today in the world actually produces or manufactures anything.
Right.
That was a surprise to me. It's all outsourced. It's all licensed to Far East and India and Bangladesh and all these kind of different places. So that was a surprise to me. And that actually takes away a lot of risk from the business, because you have your preferred suppliers and they know the quality KPIs and everything else they need to work with. But that actually makes your business more complex.
Right.
That gets me then into commercial finance. And the business I worked for was fleet management. So let's say if you had a large company, you had 100 employees and 20 of those had a company car, that was the kind of turnkey solution you could go to say, I don't want to be bothered with which car to buy, what leasing contract to sign, where and how to service those cars, and all the other aspects. You just go to GE at the time, was the world's number one in that market. And despite that, they had only less than 3% market share. So it's a very fragmented market. And you get it all done through them. It was the lowest margin business that GE had out of 11 different industries they were operating in. So literally you were operating on a 1 to 2% margin. That gets me into fast moving consumer goods, where I really loved working for FMCG for two reasons. One, it's a super simple product that you're selling, and that gets you back into the retail universe, because that's usually the way you sell your products. But there is a very short cycle of product development. Let's say normal products would take us 3 to 6 months to develop, from concept to sitting on the shelf and selling. And that being said, more than 60% of the products that you introduce to the market aren't going to be around 6 months down the line, which means you have embedded innovation and testing things out into your DNA as an organization, because there's always a new variant that does better than the other one. And if that means that this is how much shelf space you get, you need to put away with the other variant. And so that really taught me a lesson there. And then moving to pharmaceuticals, which was the opposite of fast-moving consumer goods. Any product takes 8 to 13 years to develop. Often, after 8 to 10 years, you have pumped roughly $1 billion into that compound, and you hope that it's going to become a product, and you just don't know. Meaning you have a much higher risk awareness in that organization, because you really want to make sure you're not spending all these billions into all the compounds that eventually don't make it. And there's no success formula there. And so risk awareness,
taking your time, super long product life cycles, 8 to 13 years. Oftentimes after 10 years, you reach a stage where after the third clinical trial, you are realizing that this compound is not going to make
Not
it.
working,
And
yeah.
you write it off and move on to the next one. And that gets me to telco. And I thought working for a fast-moving consumer goods company is the fastest in terms of the pace of the organization. I had no idea. It's a turtle compared to telco. Telco is more a technology company than a pure telecommunication company.
Right.
Everything moves at a light speed. Everything is super fast. Competition is brutal.
Right.
You are being murdered in markets where there are more than 3 players at play. And so India is a famous one when Jio launched out of nowhere.
Right.
And one of the richest people on the planet decided to take on the established players. And we were being murdered every day in that market. And eventually had to write off the entire business, despite billions and billions of money and investment going into that business. So, these are my kind of key takeaways about those industries and the 1 or 2 things I learned working for those.
Well, that's not 1 or 2 things, of course. At least 7, I can say. But but it's like, so when you talk to different types of leaders, how does your experience help you? Like working for so many verticals, so many sectors, it must be easier for you to relate to what they are working on. And so how does it turn out to be?
Sure. So what I'm going to say may be a little controversial with some of the other coaches out there, but I am a true believer that we as coaches serve our clients most effectively if we have at least a degree of the same embodied experience. Meaning, look at me now. I had hair before I was appointed into my first executive role. You see all these scar wounds in my face. They are from the many battles I had to fight as an HRD, sometimes fighting for budget, sometimes fighting for people, sometimes fighting for not appointing someone into a GM position, sometimes fighting for promoting someone into the marketing director position and so on. And just having a felt sense of what it's like to work for dynamic multinational companies, working both at the country level, at the regional level, but also at the mothership level, where you see the very much heightened levels of politics coming your way.
Right.
If you have never experienced these and all you have is a university degree and a coaching certification, I think you should be serving a very different client group. You should be serving maybe the same kind of people as you that are maybe early in their career and they want to get things right. They want to grow into middle management positions. They want to decide what is the right next path for them. And so that's the one thing that I truly believe in. And I know that it's a controversial statement because some of the coaches just are believing that coaching is the instrument that you hold. And with that instrument, you can play any song. The reality is, though, I find that you have to have played several instruments before you work with the maestro and the conductor of an orchestra.
Well, talking about controversial topics, I have a few friends who are in a very, you can say a leadership role in the organization. They are moving from one role to another. They are growing. These people are very, naive when it comes to handling office politics. So I often talk to them and they're like, Prateek, it's difficult and people just don't want to work and they just want to sit idle and push everything on us. They just want a scapegoat to go to when there is a problem in the organization. I don't know how to handle the politics. And I normally tell them that if you want to grow, you should learn how to handle things because it's not going to go away. Even if you reach to the topmost position, there are so many people working. You can't find one person who is who's gaslighting everyone, maybe from political point of view. So either you learn how to handle politics, or you just give up on your dream, on growing to that particular level. What's your take on this? How to handle politics and the leadership role?
Yeah. So I guess there would be a magic wand and you would make the politics go away. The reality is it's unlikely to ever happen. And so, we haven't really discussed this, but there's an entire chapter in my book dedicated to the top 10 reasons why executive transitions are a failure 40% of the time. And when I'm on podcasts or when I'm presenting the same topic at conferences, I have a simplified version of that chapter, which is what are the 3 top grouped aggregated reasons for executive transition failure. So I don't have time to talk about all 10. And so the 3 group reasons are people, culture, and politics. Meaning, let's say you have just been hired as a head of finance into an organization, and you are now being considered for a finance director position, which is the most senior position in the same organization. It's unlikely that you're really poor with managing the numbers or you don't understand the P&L, because that's all the functional technical stuff, and that is pretty good. That's why you're being considered. The reality is, though, that you need to have a degree of awareness around politics. And although, like myself, I never enjoyed getting involved in politics, you have to be able to manage that. And so whether you like it or not, my advice to any executive leader is you have to be able to deal with politics, because as and when they come your way, you better have a way to handle those, rather than trying to ignore it or saying what many of those executives say, I just dislike politics. Well, that's fine. It's lovely to say, but that doesn't make the politics go away. So you have to be able to deal with that.
True. Well, I personally feel that politics are like the roadblocks. And even if you don't want to bump into them, you should be able to see them on time. You should be able to dodge them. And that does require a level of understanding of politics. So you have to be a politician to avoid politics too. That's what I feel.
Yeah, or a politician in training.
Or a politician.
Yeah, that never wants to become a full-time politician.
I mean, even if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you should know how to. I mean, it's not about you want to, but you should know how to. So talking about your book, can you tell us more about Mastering Executive Transitions? What does this book cover? And what would one get after reading this book? Would we still require you to coach us after we have read the book?
Yes. So if I wanted to, there are 14 chapters to my book. If I wanted to just break it down into 4 parts, the first part looks at the history of executive transitions, and why is this a worthwhile discipline to pay attention to? The second part of the book looks at the top 10 reasons for failure and how expensive that is, both for the executive and the organization. And then the third part, which is by far the vast majority of the book, really looks at successful interventions and gives to the world what I call the double diamond framework of executive transitions, which is a proven framework that executives and or the HR leaders that are supporting the executives and or the coaches that are working with executives in transition can apply to work through transitions successfully. And to come back to your point, whether after reading the book there's still a need to work with a coach, of course that's always an optional, but you see the red sticker on the book that says includes workbook. The workbook is actually the most practical way to embed the double diamond framework for an executive, either by themselves or with the support of someone like HR or a coach. And then the last chapter and last part of my book is your last 90 days, which is looking at, okay, if all that's done in an organization is equipping newly onboarding executives with what they need to know in order to succeed, what about the outgoing ones? What is it that they can do to give a leg up to the incoming executive? And that's what I captured in the last chapter. That's all there is in the book.
Wow. So Mastering Executive Transitions. Well, this reminds me of, there's another question I would like to ask you. I'm not sure if I'm going to frame it right or if I can frame it right. So, as a leader, what do you think are the 5 main qualities that a person can develop from the lowest most level? I mean, when I talk to my team, when I address my team most of the time, I tell them that, okay, if you are a counselor, don't work like a counselor. Work like the CEO of a company who runs a counseling company, sitting and working as a counselor. So if Elon Musk decides to work, at the lowest level, he'll not be working on the lowest level as the lowest level person. He'll be working as the CEO who's sitting at the lowest desk or doing a clerical job. How can one develop this kind of mindset? Because for me, growth is like, if I want to be a manager, I have to demonstrate, or I have to, display the qualities of a senior manager so that I can be a manager.
Yes.
And if I want to be a senior manager, I have to, display qualities of a level above. And this puts me one step ahead in my career because I'm able to deliver what my boss's boss wants.
Yeah.
So how can a person develop this kind of mindset at an early stage? Are there any kind of practices or
Yes.
any kind of exercise that they can perform every day?
So there are two things that come up for me. And we started to talk about that earlier in our conversation today, Prateek. So the first thing is, and this is actually how we measure top talent in the company I worked for called Roche. And so every company I worked for has at least one way of measuring or identifying top talent.
Right.
And I found that the Roche formula is pretty good, because it's only including 3 things, and I will never remember more than 3 things at the same time. And it's really powerful. So we said, if we wanted to identify our top talent in the company, we have to go back and look at 3 things. And we have to put examples behind those to be able to say, yes, Prateek is identified as a top talent, someone who is worthy in further investment, someone we would like to see in more senior roles than the one that he's currently employed at. And those 3 things were the will, the skill, and the mindset. I found that to be a super simple formula, and at the same time, there's something pretty brilliant about the simple formula. So the will, meaning, does Prateek actually have a desire to want to do bigger jobs? Or are we promoting the best salesperson into a leadership role and are allowing him to have a miserable life going forward? So having the will is a great starting point, but that is not all it takes. Skill. Does Prateek demonstrate some of the skills we want to see in a more senior sales leader, such as dealing with people, such as showing high levels of EQ and not just IQ, such as what is his degree of conflict awareness, and how is he able to deal with conflict? Because it's likely that the more senior he becomes in the company, the more conflict he will be faced with. And so whatever those things are, it's now the skill that we are assessing. And if there are any skill gaps, perfect. If the 3 things are identified and one of them is needing a bit of work, that's a perfect roadmap for Prateek to be developed and groomed into a more senior position. And so will, skill, and mindset. What is the mindset of Prateek that we want to impose to more employees in this organization? Does he demonstrate the right behaviors? When we look at what we call the 4 spirit behaviors at Vodafone, is he demonstrating those in his daily interactions with his peers, with his direct reports, with his line manager? And so that is one way that I find is simple enough yet pretty profound to identify someone with a higher potential than what they have right now, and to be considered for different positions. And now I would like to come back to what you asked me at the same time, which is what are the 5 things that people can do to go into more senior roles, to grow into more senior positions in the company. We also happen to do that at the company called Roche. And so it's not necessarily 3 things, but it's 3 dimensions with 12 experiences that will give anyone working for that company a high likelihood to make it into the C-suite. So this was a project that I ran and led, and it won several awards on the back end of it being published. So we embarked on this journey and said, okay, what does it take in this company called Rush to make it into the C-suite? So what I did is I interviewed 100 of the C-suite leaders in this organization and asked them 3 or 4 very open-ended questions, qualitative. Prateek, you are a CHRO of the entire company. Can you talk to me about what were some of the critical skills, experiences, and opportunities that got you to where you got to today? And please, when you reflect on those, also include your previous careers in different organizations. So I'm not just looking for the Rush kind of thing here. And so I did that 100 times over, and I had no idea there was no ChatGPT at the time. Sadly, I had to do it all manually, and sitting down and reading through the transcripts of my interviews and coming up with something. And what then resulted as part of these interviews were the 12 experiences. We called it the experience map. And that was broken down in 3 different dimensions. The first dimension was the business dimension, meaning whether you work in HR, you work in finance, you work in whatever function, you need to understand the fundamentals of what succeeds this business commercially from a business perspective. What are the key drivers of our success as an organization, or commercially speaking? And there were 4 experiences I would recommend anyone, if they wanted to up the game on the business dimension, to embark on, such as sit down with the financial controller of your business unit and get an appreciation for what really drives success in this division of yours. Read a book on how other companies have gone from good to great, and sit down and discuss this with someone in the commercial department and get their take on that, whatever it is. So that's the business dimension. The next dimension was the self-development. And self-development could mean that you could nominate yourself, or you could, with your support, with the support of your line manager, you could nominate yourself for a leadership development program, for a functional or technical skills program. You could think about networking with fellow-minded leaders at the level that you want to break into, from inside or outside the company, and those things. And the third dimension was called people leadership, or the people dimension, which meant that you could do very concrete things. Let's say if you want to take on your first people role, and the organization design doesn't allow you to do so. I was one of those at Adidas. I was, 30 years old when they hired me, and I had been leading other people. And I asked my line manager and said, look, I understand the whole restrictions we have around the job title and so on. Is there a way I can demonstrate my leadership to you to be considered for more senior roles? And she said, yes, not on paper though. I will give you the 2 management trainees that we have in our little department, and you will become the line manager. Now, in the system, I'm still the line manager. I will approve the leave. I will give the bonus and so on. But I want you to lead them on a daily basis. So you don't have to have formal people leadership to learn how it's like to lead people. And or the other example, or experience, I should say, you could embark on in the people dimension is you nominate yourself or volunteer to take on a large project as a project lead, which is actually a lot harder because you are leading those project resources without having formal authority over them. So they have the loyalty to their own line manager. They get their leaves, their pay reviews, and everything with their line manager done. But you actually have to influence them indirectly. And those are some of the leadership skills you need. And so that was a very nice framework. And it probably comes close to your question, what are the 5 things that people can do to really demonstrate that they are worthy of more senior positions, and at the same time something that's very concrete. And so the more you can tick off those experiences over time, the more likely you are to succeed to the C-suite.
Wow. I'm sure our audience is going to love this answer, and if they put all these things in the right sequence, they'll be able to achieve what all of us are aiming. And this, we were talking about Roche Pharmaceuticals. I think you have done some remarkable work with them. Can you tell us more about what the project was like, and what work did you do exactly?
Yeah. So I was hired as the global HR business partner to serve two functions, the HR function and the communications function. And so with the communications function, I actually became a member of the top team. So I had the communications board member being my business partner and his entire communications functions around the world. And with the HR function, I wasn't part of the HR team, but I served also as the Center of Excellence head for HR development globally. And I was the business partner to all the HR team members, including the CHRO.
Wow.
And that was really tough, Prateek, I can tell you that, because I thought I knew a thing or two about HR. But if you have a bunch of HR subject matter experts becoming your clients, and I had 1,400 of those, suddenly you feel like you don't know anything about HR, because 20% of them know so much more about HR than you do, and you're still serving them in the HR capacity. So it was like herding cats, and I wish anyone good luck with that. So yeah, that was my role. And again, coming back to what did I learn? What I learned the most was being an integral member of the communications leadership team. I really thought I knew a thing or two about communications, but when I was exposed to those deep comms experts, and communications was so important to Roche, they put the head of the communications on the management board. No other communications board director was a member of any board in the entire top 30 companies in Switzerland. So they really wanted to give weight to the communications department. And so they called it CEC, Corporate Executive Committee member. And Stefan Feldhaus, Dr. Stefan Feldhaus, was the guy, my business partner, was a member of the CEC. And so it was really a senior position in the company. And I really learned a lot from them, even on matters that were bordering into HR, such as employee engagement or internal communications. Yeah. So I'm incredibly grateful for all the various experiences I've had.
Wow. Well, this makes me think of success. And I feel success has a different meaning for everyone. Maybe a 10-year-old will feel successful if he gets the toy that he desires. And so my question is, do you feel that you're successful? And I'm not going to ask you what success means to you, because as I said, it has a different meaning for everyone at different stages of life. But what does success feels like? Does it feels like the same at different stages, or do you get to experience different kinds of feeling when you achieve something different, when you feel successful at different stages of your life? So maybe for you, getting out of a role may feel successful. Okay, I'm getting out of this place, something that happened in the early stage of your career. Landing a particular role may be successful, like, okay, I got this job. Starting a family or moving to a certain place, or finding a house of your own, that may feel successful. So what does it feel like?
Yes, so I very much agree with your statement that throughout the different stages of my life, success was defined very differently. And if I wanted to give an idea on what I look at it today, I think success, the way I would look at it, is to live and lead the life the way I like, and being appreciated and valued by those surrounding me, whether it's my coaching clients, whether it's the organizations that bring me in to support those execs, whether it's my own family. So that would be my definition of success today.
So what does it feel like?
It feels incredibly good, and it's something that, yeah, as I said, gets me out of bed every single morning. Yeah.
I think that's the answer I was looking for. And this makes me think of something other than success. What is that one thing in your life that changed your mindset on something drastically? Like it was like a flip, like, oh my God, this is something I never thought of.
Yes. So I think it's got to be the launch of my book. And I wasn't even sure. I mean, I had roughly counted the number of friends and family members I had, and that was the number of sales I was hoping to get to. I wasn't really thinking that the book would go to those places as it did. But I was, my publisher at the time advised me to do something, and I was very hesitant to do that. And obviously I changed my mind on it. And so they said, your book, to test the idea of your book ahead of its launch, we would recommend you to do a pre-launch campaign, meaning you go on one of these platforms like GoFundMe type platforms, you put the idea of your book out there, and you give a few perks for those that are early buyers of your book. Now, mind you, I did not have a full book at that time, right? It was still in the making, but that's what they recommended me to do. And I was very hesitant to do that for two reasons. A, the book, the way I choose to publish my book, it's called hybrid publishing, meaning I pay for all the professional services, cover design, editing, this and that, but I retain all copyrights to my own book.
Right.
That's the route I choose. So one of the reasons I was very hesitant to go down that pre-sale campaign route was that I could afford to pay my publisher. It wasn't like I had to worry about the money, as I'm sure other authors sometimes do. They just don't have the money to pay for those professional services. So they're really depending on this thing. The second reason I was very hesitant to do that was I really felt that I would be deeply embarrassed because you have to say, what is the campaign goal, right? It's the number, $5,500, whatever the number was for me. You really have to put the campaign goal out there, and it's going to be visible for everyone how far you have progress against that goal.
Right.
And again, I thought to myself, there's only really downsides to this. What if I only sell $1,000 worth of books? I mean, my book costs $30. If 30 people take me up, that's $900. What do I do if I'm short of $4,000 something dollars? And so I was really hesitant, and it took them quite a lot of emails and talks and calls back and forth until I gave in. But here's the thing, call it manifestation, call it the universe centers around your ambition, whatever it is. When my campaign closed after 60 days, I hit 566% of the proceeds that I needed to pay down to my publisher for all the professional services. And not only that, what it really helped me to do once the book launched, that is my explanation as to how the book hit the #1 selling charts and became a #1 new release on Amazon. Because at that time, I had, as I said, I think I raised, I can't remember, $52,000 or $46,000 against $25,000 it was, against the $5,000 fee I had to pay them. But it really helped the book to be found, because by then the word had spread. And there were many people who were waiting to see when is the book gonna launch, so they were typing either my name or my book's title into the search bar on Amazon, and that's how the algorithm then picks up a book and says it's a #1 new release. And of course, as the algorithm does its own magic, if people start to buy similar books in the same category, such as The First 90 Days and others, the algorithm will recommend my book to them, say customers who bought this book also enjoyed reading this one, or customers who bought this book also bought this book on top. And so that's then how you then start to go on the selling, top selling charts. And so it's something you would have asked me before, I would have said, no way, I'm not going to do that. And I've got very good reasons why I don't want to do that. But ultimately, it was a great advice, and something that really helped me with the book and also with my coaching practice.
Wow, so the pre-launch campaign did really work.
For me, it worked in magical ways. Yeah.
So, I know writing a book is not an easy task, and that too before ChatGPT. So how do you think life has changed since ChatGPT has been launched? How does it change the life of a leader or a life of an author, or maybe in your life? What changes did it bring?
Yeah. So yes, it's true. When I launched my book, there was no such thing as ChatGPT or any of those tools available to the public. I'm sure they did exist with Microsoft and IBM and all those companies to internal people. Yeah, I think it's made it easier, but it's also made it harder. Right. I see that with my own newsletter. I have a newsletter that goes out once a week, and by now I have 9,000 subscribers. I don't use any of those tools to create my newsletter for two reasons. A, because I find that there's something about the human craft that still today cannot be quite matched with any automated tool or bot. And the second thing is, I find that my audience would see through that pretty quickly. So if all I do is to feed something into ChatGPT or whatever else the other tool is, Copilot, I just put it out there. And I come across those posts myself. I'm a blue badge holder on LinkedIn, meaning that the platform deems me to be an influencer, not just to my own 28,000 followers, but to the entire platform in its wider sense. I see those posts, and after reading 2 or 3 lines, I know that it's done with a bot, and I stop reading those. And if I get too many of those pushed to me by the same person, I would actually click on the 3 dots and say, I'm not interested in that. And the reason that my newsletter is barely a year old, it's 11 months old, it's a baby as we speak, and has been able to attract 9,000 subscribers is down to the fact that I really take my time and I don't spam them with all sorts of different random stuff, but I really take one super interesting study that I find worthwhile to be shared, and I give them my own take on that. That's all I do. And so that's what I would say. It's made it super easy. You could probably take all your podcast episodes, feed it into the ChatGPT and get a manuscript of a book. But I doubt that manuscript of a book is going to go places. And so it's made it easier, but it's also made it harder.
Wow. I think that's important because ChatGPT, though it's a tool which is helping us, but it's also taking away the skills that we have owned over the years. So interesting topic that I was discussing with a senior professor from Birmingham City University a few months back, and she was into fashion. She is a senior professor for fashion design, and so in one of the ChatGPT videos that I saw on Instagram, it said that you can upload your picture on ChatGPT. It'll check your skin tone. It'll give you the shades that you should wear. I was like, yeah, this is interesting. Let's do it. I uploaded my picture. It gave me the shades. And I hope these shades are doing justice to the ChatGPT outcome. So I was talking to her and I was like, I think this is one of the skills that fashion designers need. And so that they can prepare the models in the right way during the ramp walk, or even if you're selling the merchandise, you should be able to identify that you have the skin tone, these colors will suit you. So given the ChatGPT is able to do it promptly, do you think students in the future would actually develop the skills? It'll be easier for them to just go to ChatGPT, click the picture and ask them.
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the things I found intriguing, I also lectured at a university for something like 7 years. And I gave up because I was just too busy with other things. But one of the things I was quite interested in is to have a conversation with, one of the senior faculty members of an international school recently to say, when you give assignments, I mean, how do you actually ensure that the students just don't do 5 prompts and give you the homework, rather than sitting and doing the actual work? And it was interesting because, and he's a senior faculty with an international school, and it's called IB, International Baccalaureate. That's the curriculum. And he said, when you are down to take the IB diploma, which is the ultimate pinnacle of your student time, that then gives you the option to start looking for universities. He said they have developed, so this is the IB whatever mothership, they have developed their own ChatGPT algorithm that detects if students are submitting their assignments created with any of the similar platforms. And the degree of tolerance is 20%, meaning that behind this deep brain of theirs, if I use as a student ChatGPT or any of the others, Copilot, there's plenty of those around, to create my homework and my assignment, and ultimately it's the final assignment is the most important, because if you fail that, you have to repeat a whole year.
Right.
Up to 20% of input through these tools is absolutely acceptable, but no more than that, which means that I can't just be lazy and sit there and just do my prompts and let the tool do the work. 80% means I actually have to do the work. I have to read those books or articles. I have to come up with my own rationale and thinking. And I can then shapeshift it into something more polished, something that is logically more conclusive, whatever it is. And that is a super interesting one, and something I will remember, because as I said, our son is only in grade 4, but he will eventually get to grade 12. And he's just changed schools. His schools has an AI certified curriculum from grade 5 to grade 12 all the way through. So students are being taught how to use these tools. And at the same time, they're also reminded of the fact that no more than 20% can be created using these tools.
I think that's perfect. That's how we should be looking at ChatGPT and the AI as in whole. Well, this reminds me of a movie which I saw a few years back. I'm not sure if you have seen it. There's a movie called Transcendence by Johnny Depp. So just to give you a background of the movie, he was a scientist who was developing an artificial intelligence, and there were some rebels who wanted to stop him because they were the followers of the movie Terminator. They thought that it's going to take over and we're going to be in a Matrix-like situation, in a simulation or something. So they wanted to stop him. They killed him. They shot him with a bullet laced with poison. He survived the shot, but he died eventually. Before he died, he uploaded his consciousness on the internet. He created an operating system out of his consciousness, and he became the living AI with the human touch, with the human element. The movie is fantastic. It's not a movie that is well known, not a popular movie, but one of the elements of the movie was in which he creates a space wherein there are cameras and sensors and everything, talking about human engineering. As a leader, we are supposed to identify the emotions when it comes to emotional intelligence. So if I'm talking to you, I should be able to find those micro expressions, how you are reacting to my words, or how your tone is, how your body language is, so that I can recalibrate my words or recalibrate my responses towards you, and find a balance. The way we spoke about earlier. As a leader, we have to understand people. We have to do a lot of things. There's a balance between authority and being approachable. So for an AI, it will be very easy to understand the body temperature, and body actually reacts to our thoughts. How far off do you think we are from getting an AI-based leader? Because that AI-based leader will be able to, do complex calculations simultaneously based on the body language, expressions, tone, and it has all the KPIs and reports that we have at hand or all the time. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, firstly, I do not consider myself to be an expert on AI or large language models. I'm not even an engineer. So that's my kind of a word of caution right away. But I actually wrote about that, the fact that some of the boards have started to use specifically developed large language models to support the board in what they're doing, such as making sure that the protocol that is produced as part of the board meeting is accurate and reflects what was actually shared. Sharing the sentiment of that board meeting with every member of the board on the back end to say this was a very, conflict-free type session. And we know that boards are most effective when they are able to have constructive conflict with one another. So I think at this stage in the year 2025, on the 5th of September 2025, I see AI as an enabler, very much as a supporter and not necessarily as a replacer for leadership or even a board position. And even if that was the case, I think some companies have appointed like an AI, they have given a board seat to an AI. That's absolutely fine. But I doubt that AI is going to become the chair of that board and or to be in charge of hiring and firing the CEO, which is the first task of a chairman of any board of directors. So it may happen in our lifetime. I have no idea. But some of the more effective use cases I have seen from AI is to be an enabler and a supporter of human decisions and not necessarily replacing those.
Wow. And what if it happens? I mean, just food for thought.
We'll see. We shall see.
I think we are going into the matrix then.
We shall see.
Perfect. So let's move on to the rapid fire round.
I hope that I'm actually able to answer those questions.
Sure.
I have no idea what they are.
Just give me the first thing that comes to your mind once you heard the question. So one book every aspiring leader should read besides your own, of course.
I think the one book that really inspired me early on in my career is From Good to Great. And that's a great book. But the one that if you say every leader should read is The 7 Habits by Stephen Covey.
Perfect. And your favorite city you have lived in?
Oh, I have far too many, I must admit. And this is also true about my journey. I've lived in many cities and 5 countries. Every single one of those cities is lovable and one I could imagine myself to retire into. So I do not have, I'm afraid, I do not have my most favorite city.
Okay. And one word to describe the biggest challenge facing today's C-suite.
Yeah, it's the degree of uncertainty and ambiguity they have to navigate. And I doubt that given the world politics and the world economy, that's going to go away in the short time.
And a common mistake you see executives make in their first 120 days.
Yeah, it's my own mistake that I did when I joined GE, which is I know how this works. I've done that successfully before. Let me just, go in with my own playbook.
And what's one thing that gets you out of bed in the morning?
It's my clients and my family.
Perfect. And this makes me think of one of the questions I think I forgot to ask you. What is the generational difference you feel when it comes to talking to leaders from, Generation X to to millennials to Generation Z? Is there any specific difference, or are we actually evolving?
Yeah. So what I would say is, look, when I go back in time and I interviewed for my first position, it was very much around that I had to justify why they should hire me. Why me? Why not someone else? And I really went above and beyond to make sure that I covered that as part of the interview process. But already 10 years ago in my Vodafone role, when I was hiring management trainees, which is kind of the earlier segment of the population, I already felt that the sides of the table had reversed. So it wasn't really the candidates to try to pitch themselves to us or to me as an HR director, but it was really a reverse situation where I had to convince them why they should come and join us and not Unilever or Microsoft or some of the other most admired companies. And so I think there's something about the newer generations entering the workforce that is fundamentally different than, when I was in the same stage. And so my key advice to any executive or any HR leader is to really make sure that whatever they do in their organization is also, to a degree, catering towards the very different preferences and needs of those various generations. And so, if all HR does is kind of
producing vanilla ice cream, there's some people who want like vanilla ice cream and they want to have their salted caramel with this and that on top. And so that's kind of my key advice, and that's a key observation I can share.
Perfect. It was really great talking to you, Navid. And I'm really glad that I could get you on the podcast. And I'm sure our audience is going to get the most out of the conversation we had today. So before we break, there should be one message that you should be able to give out to the future entrepreneurs, future leaders. What would that be?
Yeah, I guess it would be never assume, always prepare. Yeah, that's my key advice to any leader.
Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure you had a good time. And for the audience, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. If you're looking for any kind of career advice, please reach out to us at 1-800-309-PINE. That's 1-800-309-7463. And if you're ready to take the next big leap in your existing career, please reach out to Navid, and his LinkedIn account is mentioned over here. Thank you so much once again, Navid, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much.
Career Matlab. Pine.